What's in this case is one of the most controversial and hated Gibsons in the history of time. It represents a period when Gibson was putting robot tuners on their guitars. People didn't like that. And I've defended this guitar in multiple videos. After thousands of comments, after millions of views, today I dismantle my Gibson Darkfire robot guitar. When this thing first showed up at the very beginning of 2009, it was my first new Gibson ever. Go figure, my first new Gibson would cause me more problems and heartache than any other guitar of the over 175 stringed instruments that I own. There are so many people that want to throw the baby out with the bathwater with this guitar because it had robot tuners, therefore it's a piece of shit. I argue that what's in here is one of the greatest Les Pauls that I personally ever owned. Let's take a look at what's inside of this beautiful white case. You had me at white, Gibson. You could see it from across the universe. Oh man, look at this beautiful figured custom color Darkfire red maple top. You have a Burstbucker 3 and a P90H with these beautiful carbon fiber covers, black binding all around the body, and this unbound ebony fingerboard with carbon fiber inlays. And you have the flower pot logo, which they introduced it in 1912 on some mandolins. To see it on a Les Paul headstock is so cool. Just tuning this guitar when it had the robot tuners on it has millions of views. Just take a peek. Let's go to whatever A is, right? Watch the head, guys. That's 7.6 volts of battery. Let's go back up to E. The comments are unbelievable to me. Are you too lazy to tune your guitar? What are they gonna do next? Have a guitar that plays itself? Hate to break it to you, it's called AI. It's not even a guitar that plays itself. The computer plays it all. A guitar that tunes itself is one of the most useful features you could ever have. This guitar would go to 16 different tunings. You'd pull out what they call the master control knob, turn it around and go and to strum, and it would go to drop D. When I first got that, I was in love. People got so mad about this guitar and all the other robot guitars because the tuners failed all the time. They went wonky. They would have all kinds of problems. So it was unreliable. And people built up this crazy stigma. These are the worst guitars ever. Everything that Gibson's doing is terrible. When in fact, the concept, the guitar tuning itself, amazing. Tuning accurately, quickly, and without having to be able to even hear it. Even more amazing. What's not amazing is what happened when I took this to my 103rd gig with this guitar, because it worked perfectly. Why risk bringing all these expensive Les Pauls to the bar when all I needed was one? Now I know what you're saying. If you guys are gigging guitar players, you always know you bring at least one backup guitar. But of course, on the fateful night that this guitar decided to hate me, the G string, of course, didn't work at all. And I'm trying to tune it. The tuners can't manually tune them on the Darkfire. They only turned one way. So I'm on stage with this beautiful Gibson Les Paul, playing through my really nice VHT rig with my 812s and my pedal board, and I can't tune the G string on my guitar. Are you kidding me? And I remember stopping the gig and having to ask one of the other bands if I could borrow their Fender Squier and then go put this on the side because it was broken. Because of all the horror stories, because of all the malfunctions, because there are so many ghosts in the machine, people couldn't trust any of the robot guitars and they just built a hatred for them. To compound things even further, Henry, the CEO of Gibson at the time, he had his fingers balls deep, if you will, into a company called Tronicle. Tronicle is the company that made those robot tuners. What did Henry do? I want every single Gibson to come with the robot tuners so he could double dip, get this technology everywhere, and start the beginning of the end to Gibson before they got the whole new regime and dug themselves out of bankruptcy. They filed Chapter 11, much to do with the robot guitars and the decisions they made to put them on everything. I sent this back to Gibson. They sent it back to me. I sent it again back to Gibson because when I got it, the tuners only worked a month, 2 months, and over the course of 3 years, it went back and forth 16 times. 8 times each way. And on my 8th time, I opened this guitar and I went to strum it, and every single one of the tuners worked except one, and I had enough. I loved this guitar. It was my #1, but then it cheated on me. Then it left me knowing that I can't call you at 3 o'clock in the morning to come pick my drunk ass up because you don't even answer my phone calls. I don't trust you anymore. So finally, after I talked to the Gibson guy, what do I do about this thing? What happens when this thing breaks out of warranty? What happens when Gibson stops using these tuners? When I talked to tech support, there was only one guy in Gibson that could fix these guitars. Maybe they sent the guy from Tronical from Germany. Does it work? 9! What happens, man? He's like, that's a good point. So Gibson had me pick out another guitar. I send back my robot guitar, and they send me this 2013 all-wood. And I fell in love with the all-wood. A year and a half ago, I'm at one of my friend's houses. My friend that bought me this guitar as a gift in 2009. Well, he bought 3 of them. Gave one to one of our other buddies, gave one to me, and he had one. I go into his closet of guitar cases, and lo and behold, there's a white case that I recognize, and I open it up, and inside is this guitar. Of course, the battery is dead. Hadn't been turned on since 2008. It's like when you see in your Facebook feed a picture of your ex, and immediately your heart gets stabbed with pain and nostalgia, and you're like, she was so pretty, but she hurt me so much. That's how I felt because I loved this guitar. I trusted this guitar, and it worked until it didn't. You couldn't buy the original battery that came with this guitar. It was some crazy hyper-engineered battery that charged itself in a certain way. It's not something you could regularly find. And the kit that you could buy from Tronical, you had to open it up and take all the stuff out and put this battery. Wasn't having it. I found a battery that works for drones and RC cars. It had the same voltage and it had the same impedance. And I had my buddy Kevin hotwire it to the little head inside my guitar. And after almost 15 years, this guitar fired up again. And it was like my old friend. I was doing all different types of tunings. It had something called chameleon tones because there's a piezo bridge built into this. It was like talking to an old friend. Everything about this guitar. The fact that it has a P90 for the rhythm and a PAF clone with the Burstbucker 3 Alnico 2 magnet over here for her lead. It's my favorite pickup combination in a Gibson. There's nothing I don't like about this guitar other than it hurt me. But when it started working again, I forgot those things. Problem is, once I put that battery back in, there were little glitches in the machine. Every once in a while, I'd pull out the master control knob and it would make a funky color or do something I hadn't noticed before. And I'm like, what's going on? It's like having a loved pet with cancer. You want to be with them every day. You want to enjoy every single moment with them. But it's only a matter of time before they are going to leave you and you are going to have a big empty hole in your heart in the shape of a Les Paul again. There's really no support to fix these guitars. I would even wake up sometimes in the middle of the night and just pull out the master control knob just to see if it would tune. Only minutes after I did my last video defending the Darkfire, I pull this and it just starts going yellow. Octung! Octung! And I go and Google it. Full system failure. I immediately go get the other RC car battery that I had hotwired as a backup, plug it in, and it worked. If it works now, will the other battery work? So out of curiosity, because I'm neurotic, I take out that battery and plug in the other battery, and then this thing, it just bricks itself like a brand new Cybertruck that Elon Musk sends you with machine guns on it. It just stopped working. I've defended this guitar, I've talked about these robot tuners in so many different videos. Now they're dead. And I had to come to the very hard decision. Do I keep it all original and try to fix it again? Or do I finally realize it's time to move on with my life and just make this a normal Les Paul? Pull off those stupid Tronical tuners, take out all the dumb electronics, and just make this what it was really meant to be. A beautiful, red, badass Les Paul. So I called my friend Josh up, crippled with indecision. Hey man, do I try to find another master control knob? Do I try to put this back together? Or do we just make this the most badass Les Paul ever? He's like, dude, I can try to figure out what's going on in there, and here's what's gonna happen. I'm gonna fix it for 6 months, and then again, you're gonna come to me crying and whining, my Darkfire doesn't work anymore. Josh, can you fix it? And I'm gonna have to figure it out again. I feel like my life is worth more than that, Ben. Why don't we just fix it once? So that's what we did. First thing was, Josh pulled off those dumb Tronical tuners and he put these beautiful open back hip shot tuners. There's a little piece here that Josh put on so he didn't have to drill additional holes into the headstock. You know what? Let's make the resale value of this even lower by putting Neurotic Guitarist on everything from the input jack to the back plate. And I love this flat, black, barely finished mahogany. This is probably my favorite neck on any Les Paul. Why don't we make this one go up to 11? And he put these knobs on, and I didn't even know until I got back home and he said, Benny, did you turn it up to 11? What do you mean? Go down and look at the knobs. Holy crap, those all go up to 11. Is it really one louder? Guess we'll just have to find out. He tries to get the piezo pickup to work because obviously a piezo pickup inside a Les Paul is a badass thing. Josh calls me up and goes, plugged in your piezo. It's not making a lot of noise. It's really quiet. I'm pretty sure that there was something custom in all that computer stuff I pulled out that's proprietary to this piezo. You're not going to be able to use it. Josh, I need a piezo on this. Come on, man, you're a genius. Kinda am. I'll figure this out. So Josh ripped apart this proprietary Tronical power tune bridge. He had to remove a circuit board that went to whatever master control computer system, hotwire the individual piezo saddle pickups one by one, and then custom fabricate his own PC board so that he can then attach this Tronical piezo to the GrafTech Ghost preamp that he ended up throwing in here since the preamp we threw out. Did you follow that? Pretty impressive, Josh. He calls me up and said, this thing sounds sick now that I made it better. Before with this Burstbucker 3, it always sounded a little dead to me. It was never quite as bright and as cutting as I hoped that you'd get out of a hand-wired Alnico 2 PAF clone. This thing should be badass. Honestly, I wasn't a huge fan. As soon as I plugged this in, the first time that Josh gave it back to me, it was just that much better than I remember it. And then I didn't have to pray that it wasn't gonna die. And then of course he rewired it. Now I can split the pickup. There's a phase switch. I have an individual knob here for the piezo volume. So at any point I can roll up and down the piezo and blend it in with the magnetic pickups. Both acoustic and electric tones going and blend in the coordinates however you want. So I'm sure you're curious, what does it sound like? I'm gonna throw it to my amp wall. I plugged into my VHT Classic, which is essentially the VHT Pitbull Ultra Lead except with EL34s. I also use this amazing product from XOFF called the A58. If you notice in all of my videos now, I plug this thing into my guitar, it goes right into my amp switcher. No cables, no loss of tone. So let's cut to some clean and hear what these pickups sound like. I think this guitar really came to life. After talking about all the piezo woes, I was sort of curious how it sounded. So here is the piezo pickup by itself. I love the sound of the piezo blended with the pickups. It's got a cool attack to it. Let's check it out with some distortion. Not only does it sound awesome, but it's fun to play. This is a meticulous quality guitar. The action on it is amazing. The frets on it are amazing. The neck, the profile, the feel on it, it's genuinely, and I own over 40 Les Pauls. It's my favorite Les Paul to play. If you were just to spy on me at 3 o'clock in the morning and be like, what is Benny playing? There's a good chance it's this guitar. It's only gonna be a matter of time before you pull up your iPhone and you have your Gibson app and you go, I wanna go to E flat standard. Press it and you'll see all the tuners moving. You'll love it when it works and it's reliable. It's not a bad thing. It's not a sign of laziness. Laziness is when you don't practice. Laziness is not bothering to learn how to be proficient in an instrument. Wanting your guitar to be constantly in tune is just smart. So I have to say, I don't have to worry about the cancer anymore. It's not only in remission, it's gone. Many thanks to my buddy Josh. I hope you guys are happy. Finally got with it. I killed the robot. You can say what you will, but I think that this is one of the greatest guitars ever. And I hope that Gibson one day decides that they want to come out with a working version. A version that's reliable of the Gibson Darkfire. Because I'll be the first in line to see if it's going to ruin my life again. Because I'm a glutton for pain and I love it so much. Why don't you smash that subscribe button already?